And it's been a quiet week in Storrs, Connecticut, my hometown, out on the edge of the campus. It's finally gotten warm enough that many of the people of Storrs have been wearing short-sleeve shirts and shorts almost every day, and naturally this causes many of them to want to spend much of their time outdoors.
And I, for one, don't blame them.
Now, some of these people take advantage of the beautiful weather to advance their political and social causes by standing outside holding up signs and yelling things like,
"We will not stop until we have ended discrimination once and for all against people who wear black socks with shorts."
But most of the people of Storrs have been making the more reasonable decision to spend these last few days in Storrs Center, that picturesque downtown area otherwise known as
the Storrs of Storrs.
The other day I was in Storrs Center, and I was sitting on a bench in the town square not too far from the Dog Lane Cafe.
Come, sit, stay.
When I noticed a young man walk by wearing a Dog Lane Cafe t-shirt. On the front it bore the Dog Lane Cafe logo, and on the back it said,
"Come, sit, stay."
And there was an old man sitting on a nearby bench reading the New York Times who happened to look up just as this kid was walking by, and he asked him,
"Do you work there?"
And the young man, somewhat confused, replied,
"What? Where?"
The senior citizen said,
"Do you work at the Dog Lane Cafe?"
The young man gradually realized what the senior citizen was talking about and said,
"Oh, you're talking about my shirt. No, I don't work at the Dog Lane Cafe. I'm sorry to say I just happen to have this Dog Lane Cafe t-shirt."
And the old man continued,
"But how can you be wearing the shirt if you don't work there?"
And the young man said,
"It's 2015. Haven't you ever heard of freedom of expression?"
And the old man hid his face behind the newspaper and said,
"All right. Well, you'll have to forgive me, son. I'm a bit behind the times."
It reminded me of the spring of 1969, back when I was a student at UConn. One evening, I went to a creative writing workshop being held on campus. The title of the workshop was
"Learn about your writing style, poetry and prose, and cons."
The workshop was being given by a professor named Bruce Summerstein, a laid-back, middle-aged man who began the workshop by giving us a simple instruction.
"Write a paragraph about someone in your life."
And after we were all finished, he asked for volunteers to share what they had written, and a kid named Owen Wilford was the first to volunteer. He had written,
"My girlfriend loves me in her own unique way. I do not know how exactly she loves me. Sometimes I spend minutes or even hours at a time hardly doing anything except trying to figure out exactly how she loves me. But I always come to the conclusion that I have no idea what that unique way in which she loves me is, and sometimes I wonder whether I will ever be able to figure out how she loves me. Right now I somehow doubt it. But I know that she loves me in her own unique way."
Professor Summerstein asked the rest of the class to give Owen feedback on the paragraph he had written, and the first person to raise his hand was a guy named Thomas Latterday, who said,
"Dude, you literally could have said that in 4 words. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're a good writer, but you just kept saying the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over."
And Professor Summerstein interrupted him and called on another kid, Sam Bollock, who gave Owen the following advice.
"It's too abstract for me to know what the heck you're talking about. You've got to give people's minds something to latch on to. Make it sound like this. My girlfriend does not love me like a lobster loves the ocean current that drags it away from the trawling net. She does not love me like quartz or mica or any minerals you might see as you look at the periodic table of elements. She does not love me like a plant that has foregone the production of chlorophyll in favor of growing around corners and into the dark but recently organized closet of my heart. She does not love me like an old jalopy that... You get the idea."
And Professor Summerstein looked deeply into Owen's eyes and said with laid-back, soul-staring intensity,
"I agree, Owen. I'm going to have to override your overwriting."
And that's the news from Storrs, Connecticut, where all the women are strong, all the men are good-looking, and all the poets and one-man bands are above average. Yes, you ask Owen to play an old man, and he just goes to town.